I should have made a plan sooner. I often wonder, how did I put up with him for so many years? What made him change? Was I to blame for his actions? My name is Layla, and I want to tell you about my daily struggles with my so-called husband, ex-husband now. Last week he came home drunk, shouting and screaming at me. I hugged George into my hip, shielding his small ears from the screaming. Is this the man I once loved, who I believe sincerely loves me too? He wasn't always like this. He bought me flowers and breakfast in bed. He showered me with kisses and worshipped the ground that I walked on. We fell for each other so quickly, like a freefall from an aeroplane. Except, I didn't have a parachute to pull out when the tough ground started to approach. I just kept falling, unsure on when I'd eventually collide with the earth. The honeymoon stage passed in the blink of a teary eye. Once I got pregnant, he removed his elaborate disguise. Piece by piece, his unwavering generosity was the first piece to be removed. Lonely doctor's visits, solitary scans. The nurse held my hand as they checked for heartbeats. He thought it was more important to visit the pub. During my pregnancy, he grew cold. Small comments about my appearance littered our conversation. Still relentlessly in love, I was willing to change for him. I was the caretaker of our relationship, and I felt like it was my duty to perfect it to his wish. After a birth that almost killed me and mere weeks of maternity leave, I returned to work as a cleaner, still unable to walk without pain. After all, I had to support his dream of becoming a fitness influencer. He spent hours every day at the gym, unable to care for the child that he helped create. And during the hours that he wasn't training, he was at the office, posting on social media, or again at the pub. His only interaction with George were photo opportunities or desperate grasps of creating the next viral video. He screamed from the living room. His voice was deep and booming, the type of voice that echoed and shook my bones.
You were supposed to send the money this morning. I'm late on my payment now.
I bounced on my toes and soothed George, who wriggled and cringed away from his voice. I'm sorry,
Speak up! I can't hear you when you're whispering.
He boomed. I'm sorry, I said slightly louder. My throat was hoarse. The words pushed out painfully. I haven't been able to get shifts because of George.
I don't care.
He interrupted again.
If you don't have this money, by the end of the day, you will be sorry. Just like you were last week.
Okay, I just need to... I unconsciously brought my hand gently to my cheek. The bruise had faded, but it still felt tender. The emotional wound was still fresh though. I couldn't stop myself. I began to shake.
I don't care how you do it. I need this camera.
I took a breath and I closed my eyes. All I had to do was wait. With my free hand, I reached into my trouser pocket and gripped the phone I purchased with the money meant for his camera. An old brick, solid in my fist. The one thing in my life that he didn't know about. It was my small act of rebellion. The first step. I looked down at George's beautiful head. His hair was mousy brown and curled gently at the ends. The love I felt for him was all-encompassing, overwhelming, and overpowered by the fear he made me feel. He controlled what I ate, what I wore, who I spoke to, and when I could leave the house. He didn't even allow me to make any friends with the girls from work. He forced me to ignore them or rudely reject their sweet attempts to reach out. The home we bought together revealed itself to be a prison, but in my small shaking hand, deep in my pocket, was my little lifeline. This phone was my way out. My list of contacts was small. He had long since pulled me away from my friends and my family, but I could never forget my mother's phone number, which I was forced to memorize as a child. All it took was a text message. I stood in a toilet cubicle of a supermarket after purchasing the phone, unable to stop trembling. George sat in his carrier beside me, sleeping peacefully. He always did that. Whenever we left the house, he went out like a light. It was the only way I could get him to sleep for more than a few hours, but he'd never let me leave the house, unless it was for work or food shopping. I typed the message with shaking fingers. A bead of sweat escaped down my back. Mum, I'm sorry. I need your help. Pressing send was the first step, the miraculous first step. Every shred, every molecule, every atom of courage I could muster, I used to press my finger into the send button. But then the message was sent and the ball started rolling. I could hear the television in the living room blaring. I bit my lip nervously. The phone vibrated in my hand, startling the heck out of me. I quickly withdrew it and saw the message I was waiting for. I squeezed George into my chest. I took a sharp breath before quickly moving upstairs and into the bathroom, the only room in the house with a lock. I slowly pushed the door closed, and with a flick of my wrist, I engaged the lock. I stood in the center of my cramped bathroom. It was pristine. He didn't like anything in the house to be dirty. I suppose from the outside looking in, we had the perfect home, the perfect family, the perfect lives. If only they knew. Now, quickly, I typed urgently. I didn't fully understand what was happening. Mum had been advocating for me to go to the police. I sent her photos and videos when I could. I answered her questions when I could use my phone at work. But all I knew is that I needed to hide in the bathroom. These past few weeks threatened to send me to the brink. But every shout, punch, and kick cemented my resolve. There was a loud knocking at the front door, immediately followed by his voice shouting,
"Get that, Layla!"
"I can't!" I shouted with more strength than I've used in years. There was a string of cursing as I heard the television being paused in the living room below me. I heard the clink and the thud of the front door being unlocked.
"James Carpenter?"
The unfamiliar voice was muffled through the bathroom door. I could barely make it out.
"What do you want?"
He said. I wish I could see. I wish I could open the door a little and peek down the stairs, but I needed to make sure George was safe. My heart thundered. I could hear the blood thumping around my head. I felt like there wasn't enough air to fill my lungs. The room closed in on me.
"You're under arrest for suspicion of domestic violence. Please come with us, sir."
"What?"
He said. It wasn't long before there was a commotion and further shouting. I heard the unmistakable thud of bodies hitting the floor. Hopefully it was his. Before I had time to process what was happening, there was a gentle, soft knocking at the bathroom door. I gasped and shuffled away from it, clutching George tightly. Through some miracle, he stayed silent through this whole ordeal. I could already feel the smothering effects of shock obscuring my vision and thoughts.
"Mrs. Carpenter?"
A soft voice said from behind the door. "Is he gone?" I asked, air caught in my throat. "You're safe," he said. Can you relate to anything in this story? Do you think I made the right choice? Let me know in the comments. Help stop violence towards women and girls. By liking this video and subscribing, you're helping this channel to grow.